Okay, so let's move into the most recent street report, the January one. First, we talk about the downtown Chadbourne Street project. Can you give us any updates on that? The last we had was the striping operations were to begin soon. Where are we at with that?
Yeah, so we're still moving forward with that. The biggest movement right now that you're going to see on downtown Chadbourne is they're getting started on the ramp. They've got their materials moved in, and they're going to start, laying the foundation for that ramp and getting some movement on that. And that's a big component of downtown Chadbourne, of the project. That project was supported a lot by a grant, a pedestrian grant, and that ramp itself was a big component of getting that grant and being awarded it. So we're excited about getting that part going, but the striping operations, we're still expecting that to happen. We just got 2 open. We got everything kind of in place now to where we can lay that stripe down and it's going to be where it needs to be. So we're also working on the pedestrian lighting, getting that up and getting that tied in and lit up. So kind of those finishing touches. It's I don't know if you've ever built a house, but you see a lot happen all at one time, and then it feels like everything just stops. And there's a lot going on, but you can't see it. And that's kind of where we're at on Chadbourne right now, is we saw a lot of movement, a lot of concrete, and a lot of big changes. And now it's those little things that seem like they take forever, but they take time. And so that's kind of where we're at on that project. But it is moving forward, and we're getting closer every day.
Mm-hmm. So, right now there's, a few blocks that have been done. Is that same kind of work going to be done all the way up to the loop, with the bricks and the concrete? Is that the plan? Is that to go all the way to the loop on Chadbourne?
That was the plan. And again, we talked about how we coordinate projects and how we design projects. And this first 3-block section of Chadbourne was really to set the standard for Chadbourne to go all the way to the loop. So from the river to the loop is going to have that same look, that same feel, all the way down. There's a few more phases. So the next phase that we're looking at is to go from Beauregard down to College, and then from College to what I call the Chadbourne S curve there by the bus station, and then take that Chadbourne S and go all the way through North Chadbourne. The big, storefront to storefront that you saw on these 3 blocks is going to stop at the loop, but North Chadbourne will be a streets project and have a nice roadway moving all the way through the north side of Chadbourne.
That's definitely one of the things we hear about a lot, with the downtown Chadbourne project, which is great. But we have a lot of people that say, well, what about North Chadbourne? So you said it's not going to be just like that. What kind of reconstruction or what kind of process, I guess, is North Chadbourne going to be? So
a lot of those pet elements, new sidewalks and railings, and a lot of that was done, I think it was back in 2015 with the Freedom Grant. And so a lot of those sidewalk components have already been done all the way down to, I believe, 19th Street. So we're going to come in now and just refresh the street from there all the way out to 43rd Street by the Coliseum, so that those visitors that are coming into town and those users that are going out to the Coliseum for those events have a good street, as well as, obviously all the businesses and the storefronts that are along Chadbourne have a nice roadway in front. It's just there's no need, as there was downtown, to do the storefront to storefront. That's an invasive project. You impact businesses tremendously, and we know that. And there's not a need to do that going all the way down Chadbourne, so we're not going to impact businesses like that in that manner. We're just going to give them a good roadway that'll help people get to their store easier.
Will that be will it be the concrete construction that we saw, or will it be more of a mill and overlay? Or?
No, it'll be a mill and overlay.
Okay.
It'll be an asphalt street going back down. The profiles will change. Right now, there's the widths of the pavement go from 4 inches to 8 inches just based on different repairs and mill and overlays over the course of the years and everything. So all of that will be pulled back down, and we'll have a nice consistent elevation coming back down, but it will be hot mix moving from the loop all the way to 43rd.
So on that note of talking about street materials, something that I myself have asked and have had answered internally, but I've heard it from other people. Why, in some cities you see downtown often being brick streets. Can you answer for other people why we didn't choose to do all brick streets?
So it's obvious a street, you want longevity in a street. Back in the day, brick streets is what they had available for materials. Today, we have much more quality materials, much more durable materials, concrete, even the asphalt that's being placed now. While there is an appeal aesthetically for bricks, functionally and and for the duration, it's not the best choice necessarily. If we did a brick street, it would involve a concrete underlayment that the bricks are then set on. So it's providing nothing more than just an aesthetic value at that point. The true structure would still be a concrete street as it is downtown. So, and you'll see in like downtown where we did stamps, we wanted that aesthetic value, but short of placing bricks that can pop loose and can crack, and we went ahead with the stamped and stained concrete in place of that. That gives you that same look and that same feel, but not necessarily the problems that come along with strictly using a brick structure. Again, I'm all about it. I think it looks awesome. I think the historical value is awesome there, but when we're looking at spending our money on it, it's really not the best product to put down at this point in this day and age. There's better products that'll last a lot longer than that.
Anything else you want to talk about downtown Chadbourne?
I think the college intersection will see some of that same design, that star design. I think it's the last intersection that'll see that ultra decorative design in there, but everything else will be concrete storefront to storefront. So, yeah.
I do want to ask, and we've had this question, obviously can't be ignored. You see it. So one of the stars at the intersections is flat, and that's the one that's by the Fuentes. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is a bit raised. So can you explain what that's about?
100% drainage.
Okay.
It all has to do with water flow.
Right.
That in any crown in a roadway is for that purpose. It's to shed water and to flow water. It's just in the case of when you put a star in the middle of it, now you notice it, now you see it. But that's why that crown is there. It's 100% to get that water into the gutter line, into the flow line, so it gets off the roadway. Okay. That's why it's there, and it's necessary. I mean, obviously, we wanted to keep that profile as low as we could, but that's where it needed to be in order to keep the water in the right places.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think one of the questions we get a lot is that the city, or question/statement is that the city chooses certain areas of town to work on more than others, that certain parts of town get more love than others. Is that taken into consideration when street projects are chosen, is that this side of town needs some love and this side of town needs some love? What goes into the process of selecting a street to be worked on?
Not the side of town. The side of town has nothing to do with it. What has everything to do with it is the quantitative values that go into that. How much traffic is there? What are the traffic patterns like? What is the condition of the street? You know, that's why in 2015 we did that street survey. Had a consultant come in. They drove every street in town, gave us a condition rating on the streets, so we had that quantitative data to make that decision off of, and that's what drove which streets were being going to be rehabbed through that $80 million that council gave us. So the side of town has nothing to do with what projects are being selected at the time. It's all about traffic patterns, existing condition of the roadway. Maybe there's other issues that are in play, like drainage and stuff like that needs to be addressed and come into that decision-making process. But no, it's all quantitative and justifiable as to where we work on when we do these projects.
And sometimes, like with MLK and then with downtown, it's motivated by grants. So is that correct? So those might jump on the list higher up because we got funding to do those types of projects.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, like you said, you know, downtown street Chadbourne, while it was at the forefront of all of our projects, that particular phase got moved up a little bit because we did have a grant to do all the pedestrian elements and move forward on that. That grant was only, that application period was so short. So we had to look at all of our projects that we had going on and say, you know, which of our projects have the most likelihood to be awarded this grant? And that was Chadbourne. So obviously we pushed that one ahead a little bit to take advantage of that multi-million-dollar grant that helped push that project along. all it did was take another project and kind of moved it down the list a little bit. But, MLK was another one that we had a pedestrian grant to do sidewalks and shared use lanes and stuff like that. That was a timing function as well. Granted, that road needed to be redone and it was top priority for us, but it wasn't number one. It was like number 3 or number 4. It got done first because of the condition of the road, as well as the opportunity for grants to come down and do some of those ped elements that needed to be done along that roadway as well.
Because at the end of the day, we can't work on streets if we don't have the funding to do it.
That's right, and 100%, and that's why when you look at like downtown Chadbourne, there's multiple funding sources that went into that. Not only the bond funds, but there was a grant, from a federal grant that went along with that. There was downtown San Angelo helped out with some of the money and the design and the construction of it. The Development Corporation, Costa DC, threw in some money to help spur that development and that rehabilitation downtown. So it all comes down to money, and if we're going to talk about that, when we're looking at that phase B and phase 3 of downtown, that's what we're in big discussions of right now, is how are we going to pay for the continuation of that project down. We have some good ideas and we have some identified funding sources for our portions of it, but we're also constantly looking at grant opportunities to continue that project down. I think the next round for that same PEG grant is coming up in this next year, so we'll be applying for that again to help go down. And it's kind of an ABC process, right? So we got this first grant and we started this PED design process. Well, now, in that next application, we talk about how we need to continue it. And without that continuation, this money isn't best utilized that you gave us. So we need to continue. And so we talk about joining in, the transit district and those bus routes and that multimodal type of connectivity with our pedestrian movements. And so that all comes into play into how we sell, how we apply, how we phase in our projects.